Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
To make advanced changes to a selected image, you can use the Format Picture dialog box to control every aspect of your clip art in minute detail. You can access the Format Picture dialog box by clicking the Format Shape button that appears in the lower right corner of the Picture Styles group on the Format tab of the Picture Tools Contextual tab. The options that you can change for your selected image are grouped by category within this dialog box. You can see the categories shown in a list at the left side of the dialog box. To use the dialog box, you select a category from the left side of the dialog box, and then make any changes to the available settings shown within the category at the right side of the dialog box. Once you have finished making your changes, you can then click the Close button to close the dialog box. Unlike many other dialog boxes, the changes that you make here are applied immediately as they are set. So you may need to use the Reset Picture button to reset your image after experimenting with the settings in this dialog box if you do not like them. The lesson will examine the settings that we can change in each category. First, let's examine the various categories and what can be changed in each. The categories that you can select are Fill, Line Color, Line Style, Shadow, Reflection, Glow and Soft Edges, 3D Format, 3D Rotation, Picture Corrections, Picture Color, Artistic Effects, Crop, Size, Position, Text Box, and Alt Text. The first thing that you should note is that some of the options may not be available for the type of object that you have selected. For example, the Artistic Effects option is only available when you have a picture selected within your presentation, not clip art. You can click the Fill category in order to change settings that affect the appearance of the inside fill of some types of clip art. For this to be used effectively with images, the selected image must contain a transparent section. If the image is already completely filled with its own content, then changing these settings would produce no visible effect. However, if your selected image contains a transparent background, then you can use the settings in the Fill section to format the background area within the image. Note that you can select the No Fill option to remove any fill effect from a selected image. You can select the Solid Fill option to fill the background of the image with the color of your choosing. You simply use the Color drop-down button to select the desired color to use. You can then use the Transparency slider to set the level of transparency that should be applied to the background fill. You can select the Gradient Fill option to fill the background of the image with a multicolored gradient. A gradient is simply a color that transitions in hue and/or transparency from one angle to another. You can choose from one of the preset gradients available by simply making a selection from the Preset Colors drop-down. Now, if you want to make your own custom gradient, then you can use the additional buttons and sliders to customize the gradient. You can use the Type drop-down to select the type of gradient you want to use. Linear, which changes colors from one side to another across a straight line. Radial, which changes colors starting from an origin point and then radiates outward in a circular pattern. Rectangular, which changes color starting from an origin point and then radiates outward in a rectangular pattern. Or Path, which follows the path of a line that you draw. Now, once you have selected a type of gradient other than Path, you can then select the specific variation that you would like to use from the Direction drop-down. If you selected a linear gradient type, then you may select the angle at which the gradient changes by entering the desired angle in degrees into the angle spinner box. The Gradient Stops section allows you to set the number and appearance of changing points in the gradient's color scheme. At its most basic level, a gradient must have at least 2 gradient stops. For example, if a gradient changed from black to white in a linear fashion, then it would have at least 2 gradient stops. You can have more if desired. In the Gradient Stops section, click on a gradient stop to select the gradient stop whose properties you wish to set. You can click and drag one of the gradient stops to change its position within the gradient, or you can enter its position as a percentage into the position slider. You can then use the color drop-down to set what color you want the gradient to be at that selected point. You can use the brightness and transparency sliders to set both the brightness and transparency of the color that you selected. To add more gradient stops to your gradient, you can simply click into the gradient line at the spot where you wish to place the new gradient stop. You can also click the Add Gradient Stop button to the right of the gradient line to add a new gradient stop as well. If you wish to remove a gradient stop, select the gradient stop that you wish to delete, and then click the Remove Gradient Stop button to delete the selected stop from the gradient. Now at the bottom of this tab, you can check the Rotate with Shape checkbox in order to set the gradient fill to rotate with the image if the image is rotated. Back at the top of the Fill section, you can choose the Picture or Texture Fill option button to fill the background of the selected image with another image of your choosing. Textures are simply preset images that are included in PowerPoint. To apply one of the preset textures, you can select your choice from the texture drop-down. If you want to use a picture that's located on your computer, then either click the File button to open the Insert Picture dialog box where you can select the image file from your computer to insert, or click the Clipboard button to paste the contents of your clipboard into the background of the image. If you want to insert another piece of clip art into the background, you can click the Clip Art button to open the Select Picture dialog box, and you can use this dialog box to search for clip art to insert into the background of the image. Now if you want to tile or repeat the background as a texture, then you can check the Tile Picture as Texture checkbox. Then in the Tiling Options section, you can set the Offset X and Offset Y options to set the amount of horizontal and vertical offset to apply to the background image. You can use the Scale X and Scale Y spinner boxes to set the percentage of the image to display in the tiled background. You can then use the Alignment drop-down to set the alignment of the background image within the main image. Then you can use the Mirror Type drop-down to select the type of reflection to apply to the tiled images in the background. If you deselect the Tile Picture as Texture checkbox, you will instead see the Stretch Options section appear. You can change the background image's offset settings in the Stretch Options section. Use the left, right, top, and bottom spinner boxes to input the percentage by which the image should be offset from the selected side. Finally, you can set the amount of transparency to apply to the background fill by using the Transparency slider. Also, if you want the background to rotate with the image if the main image is rotated, then check the Rotate with Shape checkbox. If you wish to set a pattern fill for the selected image, then choose the Pattern Fill option from the top of the Fill Options section. Then select a desired pattern to use as the fill for the image from the choices shown below. You can then use the Foreground Color and Background Color drop-downs to set the desired foreground and background colors to use for the fill pattern. If you wish to use the Slide Background as the fill color, then simply select the Slide Background Fill option within the Fill section. The next category is Line Color. As applied to images, these attributes set the color of the picture's border. The 3 options shown at the right are No Line, Solid Line, or Gradient Line. If you do not want to have a line or wish to remove a line that's been applied, then you can select the No Line option. If you wish to apply a solid line, then select the Solid Line option. Notice that when you do this, additional settings become available. So first, select a color for the line border from the Color drop-down button's palette of choices. If the colors shown aren't quite what you need, notice that you can select the More Colors command at the bottom of the color palette in order to open the Colors dialog box. In the Colors dialog box, you can create almost any color you desire. This dialog box is available in almost all of the places where you can choose a color within PowerPoint. You can either click the Standard tab and then select one of the colors shown in the honeycomb of color choices, or you can click the Custom tab and then select the color that you want. Now note at the bottom of both tabs, you can also use the Transparency slider to set the level of transparency you want to apply. If you opened the Color dialog box to select a custom color, then click the OK button once you've made a choice to return to the Format Picture dialog box. Note that the Transparency slider also appears as a choice in this dialog box as well. If you want to apply a gradient line, you can select the Gradient Line option in order to view a different set of options within the line color area. You can apply a gradient to a border in the same way that you can apply a gradient to a fill. So these options should be familiar to you as we just covered them in the fill section. Now you can click the Line Style category in order to make changes to any line, or in this case picture border, that change its thickness and appearance. So you can use the Width spinner box to set the width of the line. If you want to have a multi-line border, use the Compound Type drop-down to select the style of multi-line appearance that you want to use for the border. You can use the Dash Type drop-down to select the style of line that you want to apply. There are several styles of dashed lines available. The Cap Type drop-down allows you to change the appearance of the ends of lines. This isn't often used in applying picture borders. However, the Join Type is. The Join Type drop-down allows you to set the appearance of the junction points where two lines meet. Also note that, if working with arrows, which are a type of line, you can set their appearance in the Arrow Settings section. This would not be the case with picture borders, however. You can click the Shadow category at the left side of this dialog box in order to view settings at the right that allow you to apply a shadow to your selected image. You can easily apply one of the pre-created shadow styles by selecting one from the Presets drop-down. Now if you want to customize your shadow's appearance, then you can start by choosing a shadow color from the Color drop-down. You set the transparency of the shadow by using the Transparency slider. You can set the size of the shadow by selecting a percentage from the Size slider. You can use the Blur slider to set the amount of blurring applied to the edge of the shadow. You can angle the shadow by entering the desired angle into the Angle text box or by simply moving the slider to the desired setting. You can control the amount of vertical offset that is applied to the shadow by using the Distance slider to set the amount of vertical offset to apply. You can click the Reflection category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box to view settings to the right that allow you to apply or alter a reflection for your selected image. You can change which reflection is applied by selecting a desired reflection from the Presets drop-down. You can also simply enter your desired values into the Transparency, Size, Distance, and Blur spinner boxes to create a custom reflection for your image. You can click the Glow and Soft Edges category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box to view settings to the right that allow you to apply or alter any glowing or soft edge effects applied to your selected image. In the Glow section at the right, you can change which glowing effect is applied by selecting a desired glow variation from the Presets drop-down. You can also simply enter your desired values into the size and transparency spinner boxes to create a custom glow effect for your image. In the Soft Edges section, you can set the amount of softening of the image's edges by selecting a desired amount from the Presets dropdown. You can also simply enter your desired value into the Size spinner box to create custom soft edges for your image. If you want to apply a 3D effect to your selected image, then start by clicking the 3D Format category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box. In the Bevel section, you can use the top and bottom drop-down buttons to select a style and thickness of beveling to apply. You can also enter values into the Width and Height spinner boxes if desired. In the Depth section, you can use the Color drop-down to select a coloring for the beveling depth. You can also set the amount of coloring applied to the beveling by using the Depth spinner box. Likewise, in the Contour section, you can use the Color drop-down to select a color for the contour of the bevel. You can then set the size of the contour by entering the size of the contour into the Size spinner box. In the Surface section, you apply settings that change the appearance of the material and lighting used in the 3D setting. So use the Material drop-down to select the type of material that the 3D effect should emulate. Then use the Lighting drop-down to select an intensity and style of lighting to apply. You can then use the Angle spinner box to set the angle of the lighting if desired. You can rotate the image in 3D space by changing the settings that appear in the 3D Rotation category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box. When you select this category, you can easily apply a 3D rotation by selecting one from the Presets drop-down. Now, if you wish to apply your own custom rotation, then you can use the buttons and sliders in the Rotation section to accomplish that. You can enter a rotation angle for the X, Y, and Z coordinates by using the spinner boxes or by clicking the adjacent buttons. If you selected a perspective style 3D rotation from the Presets drop-down, then you will be able to enter an angle into the perspective spinner box. If you were applying a 3D rotation to a text box, you would be able to keep the text appearing flat by checking the Keep Text Flat checkbox. This does not apply to pictures, however. You can use the Distance from the Ground spinner box to set the amount of space that the selected object will appear to be from the ground. You can click the Picture Corrections category to make adjustments to a selected image. Note that for the Picture Corrections, Picture Color, and Artistic Effects categories, unless you have an actual photograph selected, you may not be able to change many options to the right. These options do not typically appear for most drawn graphics, such as clipart. Otherwise, you will see options at the right side of the Format Picture dialog box that will allow you to perform some of the basic image editing that you can also perform using the buttons available on the Format tab of the Picture Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon. Now, in the Picture Corrections category, you can alter settings that control the clarity, brightness, and contrast of the selected picture. So in the Sharpen and Soften section, you can use the Presets drop-down to select a desired picture clarity. You can also use the adjacent slider to set the clarity between Soften and Sharpen, or simply enter a percentage into the spinner box within this section. In the Brightness and Contrast section, you can use the Presets drop-down to select a desired brightness and contrast for your selected picture. You can also use the Brightness and Contrast sliders to set the amount of brightness and contrast for the selected image, or enter a percentage into the adjacent spinner boxes. If needed, you can click the Reset button to reset your changes to the selected picture. In the Picture Color category, in the Color Saturation section, you can select a preset color saturation from the Presets drop-down, or you can enter your desired color saturation percentage by using the adjacent slider or directly entering a value into the saturation spinner box. In the Color Tone section, you can select a preset color tone to apply from the Presets drop-down, or you can enter a temperature by using the adjacent slider or directly entering a value into the temperature spinner box. In the Recolor section, you can use the Presets drop-down to select a color to apply to the selected image. If you click the Artistic Effects category, you will see an Artistic Effect drop-down button appear to the right that allows you to select a desired effect. Note that you can also click the Reset button that appears in this section to reset any changes that you've made. If you click the Crop category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box, you can set the amount of cropping to apply to the selected image. You can enter a desired width and height for your image into the width and height spinner boxes. You can also enter a desired offset for the image for either the X or Y axis by entering that amount into either the Offset X or Offset Y text boxes. In the Crop Position section, you can enter the desired amounts by which to crop the image by using the width, height, left, and top spinner boxes to set the desired cropping amounts. If you click the Size category in the Format Picture dialog box, you can enter the height and width into the text boxes provided in the Size and Rotate section to the right. Notice that if you want to adjust the relational aspect or the height to width ratio of the selected image, you would need to ensure that the Lock Aspect Ratio checkbox is deselected in the Scale section first. Then you can enter the height and width independently if desired. Now, in addition, you can enter a degree of rotation to apply to the image by using the rotation spinner buttons. In the Scale section, you can enter a percentage into either the height and or width text boxes. The image will then be scaled by the selected percentage. You can also check or uncheck the 3 available checkboxes in this section as needed when making size and scale changes. They allow you to lock the aspect ratio, to determine if the ratio used is based on the current image scale or on the scale of the original image, and to scale the image as would be best for the slideshow when presented in a selected resolution. You can also click the Reset button at the bottom of this tab to reset any change made to the size of the image. You can click the Position category at the left side of the dialog box to display positioning options to the right. In the Position on Slide section, you can enter a measurement into both the horizontal and vertical text boxes, and then use the adjacent From drop-down to select the anchor point from which the measurements should be interpreted. You can select either the top left corner or the center of the slide from these drop-downs. If you click the Text Box category, you will see options at the right that you can use to make changes to selected text boxes. Since these options only apply to text containing shapes like word art and text boxes, you can review these settings in Lesson 4.7, Setting Text Box Options. You can click the Alt Text category to set a title and description of the image for persons who use a screen reader to view image content. You can enter a title for the image into the title text box, and then enter a description of the image into the description text box. This information should certainly be entered for the selected image if you plan on publishing the presentation to the Internet. Now, when you've finished applying your desired settings to the selected image, click the Close button in the lower right corner of the Format Picture dialog box to close the dialog box and apply your changes.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.